Hi everyone, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. My name is Brenda Peralta. I'm a registered dietitian with 10 years of experience, and today I'm partnering with Peremis to bring you something I genuinely think is one of the most undertalked topics in wellness, and that's about stress. But before we dive in, I just want to say that if you are here, it's probably because stress is something that shows up frequently in your daily life. Maybe it's work, family, finances, or just general noise of modern living. You're not alone in this, and I want you to talk to you today about stress and how nutrition can help you manage it a little bit more. First, we do need to talk about the science of stress. Now, we don't need to go deep into the woods here. We just need a basic understanding of what makes stress and nutrition related. So, what actually happens in your body when you're feeling stressed? It all comes down to the HPA axis, and that stands for hypothalamic pituitary adrenal, and it's essentially your body's stress command center. Here's how it works. Step 1. Your brain perceives a threat. And here's the thing, it doesn't have to be a real threat. It could be just an overflowing inbox, a difficult conversation, or a news on a headline. Your brain processes it the same way as if you are running away from a bear or another predator. The amygdala, your brain's alarm bell, just fires. Then it moves into step 2. That signal travels to the hypothalamus, which tells the pituitary, which tells the adrenal gland to release cortisol and adrenaline, and your body flows with these hormones. Then it moves to step 3, and that is the physical response. Your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up, your blood sugar rises to give you that quick fuel that you need to run away from that threat. And critically, your digestion starts to slow down. Blood is literally shunned away from your gut to your muscles and your brain. Now, in an acute situation like serving to avoid a car accident, this is a great system to help you keep alive. However, the problem becomes when we have so much stress going on that it becomes into chronic stress, and that alarm never truly shuts down. And that is when we truly start seeing or noticing any nutritional consequences, which brings us to how it can affect. And that is the nutrient drain. When chronic stress happens, it starts draining all your nutrients in your body. And this is one of the most important pieces that most people don't really realize. So let's look at what happens. First, you get elevated cortisol. When cortisol stays high, it starts to break down muscle. It starts raising your sugar levels and it starts depleting key nutrients like magnesium, B vitamins, and zinc, which are the first ones to go. And these are the exact nutrients that you need to help you cover that stress response. But I'm going to talk about that in a bit. The second thing is that chronic stress can increase systemic inflammation. Your body responds by increasing the demand of omega 3 fatty acids, vitamin C, and antioxidants. These are molecules that are going to help you reduce free radicals that can cause stress and harm to your body. If your diet is low in this, then you can start noticing how your body starts feeling depleted or like if you have an empty tank. The third one is digestion. And this is a really important one. Digestion slows down, shuts down under stress. That means that if you are eating good food, your digestion slows. You are not taking advantage of all those nutrients that you are eating. You could be eating some spinach with some salmon, but your nervous system is in a constant flight or fight response, so it starts absorbing a fraction of what you are really eating. And the other thing that happens are cravings. You've probably noticed that whenever you're feeling stressed, you start having more cravings, whether it is cookies, donuts, ice cream, chips, or any other thing, you start having more cravings. So this happens because the cortisol starts driving your cravings into sugar and fat, and that is because your body needs quick fuel. So then the stress eating cycle starts. You feel more stressed, you start eating bad food, and that encourages more stress in your body. But the good news is that there are different ways in which you can help that stress lower. The first one is making sure that your gut brain axis is on point. And I love this topic because a lot of people don't understand that there is a very strong connection between the gut and your brain. I know that they are different and one is down below and one is up, but there is a very, very strong connection between them. Did you know that approximately 90% of your body's serotonin is produced in the gut? Your gut, not your brain. That feel good neurotransmitter that's so closely linked to mood, calm, and resilience, it's actually produced in your gut. Your gastrointestinal tract also contains over 500 million nerve cells, more than in your spinal cord, and 70% of your immune function or your immune system actually lives in your gut. And all of this is connected to your brain through the vagus nerve. Think of this as a superhighway with traffic flowing in both directions. When your brain is stressed, your gut knows it. And when your gut is disrupted, your brain actually feels that too. And here's why this is very important. Chronic stress can cause what we call dysbiosis, and that is an imbalance in your gut microbiome. This means that you have unhealthier bacteria, and the bacteria that we actually want is in lower amount. And what happens is that since our gut produces this calming neurotransmitter like the serotonin or the GABA, when we have more bad bacteria, these hormones can be affected and you might not produce them as much. So, the key takeaway that I want you to have here is when you feed your gut well, you are literally feeding your brain's capacity to stay calm. That is why it's important for you to consume high fiber, fermented food, and gut supporting foods to help make sure that that gut brain axis is on point. So I mentioned that stress can deplete important nutrients. So which ones do we need to prioritize? The first one is what we call um, the first one is magnesium, which we call the calm mineral, and that is for a reason. About 50% of adults don't get enough magnesium through their diet, and that's already a problem. But if we layer on top of that chronic stress, it's going to mean that you are getting even a fewer amount of magnesium. And here is what magnesium does in stress. It helps regulate cortisol release and directly modulates the HPA axis activity, meaning it literally helps put the brakes on your stress response. So it's also required for the system of the GABA, which is your brain's primary inhibitory neurotransmitter. GABA is essentially your nervous system brake pedal. Without enough magnesium, that pedal is not going to work. Magnesium also helps support deep restorative sleep, which stress actually wrecks. So whenever you take high magnesium foods before bedtime, that actually can help you have better sleep, which can help you handle a little bit better the stress. But what happens? Magnesium burns your stress, burns your magnesium, low magnesium worsens the stress response, and again, that cycle begins. So what do we need to do? We need to start focusing on top food magnesium sources. So we have pumpkin seeds, dark leafy greens like spinach, kale, or we can also add dark chocolate, legumes, or almonds and whole grains. As a registered dietitian, I always look for people to have between 310 and 420 milligrams of magnesium per day, hopefully from natural sources, but if not, you can always ask your primary healthcare provider to supplement with options like magnesium glycinate, which can help promote a good night's sleep, or magnesium malate, which are the most bioavailable forms and that they're the easiest on digestion. Then we have the B vitamins, which are the ones that our nervous system needs for fuel. These are water soluble vitamins, which means that your body doesn't store them. You need to consistently get them through your food. There are several B vitamins that we need to be paying a little bit more attention. The first one is B1 or thiamine, which is essential for energy metabolism in your nerve cells. Low levels can actually cause irritability and fatigue, which we often mistake as personality problems rather than nutrient gaps. B5, which is pantothenic acid, it directly supports your adrenal function and when your adrenals are working overtime under chronic stress, they need a little bit more of that vitamin B5. Then we have B6, which is particularly important for neurotransmitter production. It is required to synthesize serotonin, dopamine, and GABA. And if you're feeling anxious, foggy, or emotionally flat, that actually can be a low levels of B6, which is worth examining. We then have B9 or folate, which is critical for methylation, and that is how your body can actually regulate that stress chemistry. And when we have B12, that is essential for protective the myelin sheath around your nerve fibers, which actually, when you are low on B12, it can mean that it's often related to anxiety, brain fog, and low mood. Stress can deplete the B vitamins. Keep in mind that also a high alcohol intake, a high caffeine intake, and a diet that it is high in refined carbs. The best sources for you to get these B vitamins are going to be eggs, poultry, meats, legumes, there are leafy greens, and nutritional yeast if you are leading into a more plant-based diet. As for the other two nutrients that I want to highlight, the first one is omega 3. Omega 3, specifically EPA and DHA, can help reduce neuroinflammation, which is a kind of inflammation that is actually linked to anxiety and depression. Research actually shows that omega 3 supplementation, particularly with higher EPA doses, can significantly help reduce cortisol and the cortisol response on our body. They can also help produce cell membrane fluidity in the brain, which means that we have better communication between our neurons. As for the best foods that you can get the omega 3, we have salmon, sardines, mackerel, any fatty fish. Make sure that you're striving for at least two meals where you include this fatty fish. You can also get them from plant-based sources like chia seeds, ground seeds, and walnuts. The other nutrient is vitamin C, which is going to be that buffer. So here's the thing. The adrenal glands contain one of the highest concentrations of vitamin C in the entire body. And when cortisol is produced, that vitamin C is released and depleted rapidly. So under chronic stress, your vitamin C demands actually shoot up. So what we want is to make sure that you're getting a good amount of vitamin C. Here we're going to focus on foods like bell peppers, which actually have a lot of vitamin C. We also want to include oranges, kiwis, strawberries, any other citric foods, and broccoli. Now let's talk about which foods amplify your stress response and which actually help it dial it down. One thing I always say is that this isn't about eating perfect, it's about understanding the patterns so you can actually start making smarter choices. Let's focus first on the things that we want to reduce that can actually increase that anxiety or stress. The first one is caffeine. Now, I'm not saying that you need to cut coffee completely. I'm saying that whenever you're having 4 cups of coffee a day, you're already running high on cortisol. On top of that, you start adding a little bit of caffeine, and that's like pouring gasoline onto a fire. Caffeine can actually spike your adrenaline, so it can also disrupt your sleep. And when we don't have good sleep, that can actually increase your stress response. So if you are going to drink caffeine, I recommend you having 1 or 2 cups per day, and hopefully before noon so that it doesn't affect your sleep. Next, we have alcohol. I know this is a common stress coping tool, and I really get it. However, um, alcohol can initially sedate you. It can make you feel calmer and have a better sleep, but it can then disrupt your cortisol rhythm in the second part of your night. and it can actually wake you up later at night, preventing you from having that good night sleep. So when possible, make sure that you, again, just like caffeine, make sure that you stick to one or two drinks. And if you are drinking, make sure that you are not doing it so close to your bedtime, doing it earlier in the day. A general tip that I always give is that make sure that whenever you're having an alcoholic beverage, you have a glass of water before and after. So, for example, a glass of water, the alcoholic beverage, and then water. This helps you stay hydrated, and it can also help increase your fullness level so that it can help you reduce your alcohol intake. Then we have the ultra processed and sugary foods. Blood sugar spikes can trigger cortisol spikes, which means that we need to hopefully reduce the amount of ultra processed or high sugar foods. The problem is that high sugar creates a roller coaster in our energy. That you eat a high sugary food, it spikes your sugar levels. Then the body tries to reduce that sugar in your body, and it creates that dip. And that's when those energy levels start fluctuating, and it can actually start increasing your cravings. And again, it produces this cycle of you crave something sweet, you have that sweetness, it gives you a quick energy shot, but then the cravings start again. And the other one is seed oils. Seed oils, especially the ones that are high in omega-6, are going to be pro-inflammatory, which can increase systemic inflammation, which can actually lead to more cortisol levels, and that can actually create that vicious cycle again. So we want to make sure that we are avoiding seed oils. As for the things that we do want to prioritize, we want to prioritize fermented foods. So we want to think of yogurt, kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, or miso. They're actually going to feed your microbiome. And that is, as we saw, that is going to have a positive effect on your brain. We also want to focus on leafy greens. They're going to be rich in magnesium, folate, and antioxidants. So we have an all-in-one package. Make sure that you're trying to include them hopefully every day, but at least every other day. Fatty fish, make sure that we're doing it twice a week, and that the EPA and the DHA is going to be good for the brain to help us with the cortisol support. And finally, make sure that we are focusing on colorful products. Every color and every fruit with a different color is going to give us a different nutrient. So the more variety that we have, the different polyphenols and antioxidants we're going to have that are going to help us with the inflammation. Now, I call this the stress resilient plate, and it has four components. So the first one is we want to make sure that half your plate is made of at least three different colored vegetables. Make sure that you try to prioritize the leafy greens and cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, and Brussels sprouts. But make sure that you have three different colors. So for example, you can have the dark leafy greens, you can then have bell peppers or tomatoes, and then you can add, for example, radishes, which are white on the inside. We then want the next quarter of your plate to be high quality protein. So we're talking about eggs, legumes, poultry, fish, Greek yogurt, anything that is going to provide us a good source of protein. Protein is going to provide us with the amino acids, which are the essential building blocks for every neurotransmitter in your brain. And without enough protein, you can't really make enough serotonin, dopamine, or GABA. No matter if you're sleeping or meditating, we still need that core, um, those core ingredients in order for you to produce it. Next, we want the quarter of your plate to be made of complex carbohydrates. So here we're talking about sweet potato, whole grains, lentils, beans, chickpeas. These are going to help digest slowly instead of giving us that quick energy spike, and is going to help us feel fuller, which is going to help reduce our cravings. And the fourth one, we can't forget about healthy fats. Healthy fats should be available in every meal. think about adding a little bit of drizzle of olive oil to your meal. Have an avocado, a handful of nuts or seeds. These are going to support hormone production and are going to help slow down how your body absorbs those nutrients, which means again you're going to have more stable energy levels. Now, does this mean that all of the meals need to look exactly like this? No, but using this as a default template is going to make you have better stress management nutrients, and it's going to help you have a more balanced and healthy approach to your eating. Now, when stress is particularly high, so for example, when you have a very busy week or a very hard season or just a rough day, here are the three things that I normally recommend to my clients never to skip. The first one is to make sure that you never skip breakfast. In the morning, cortisol is naturally at its highest, and that is because when you wake up, it needs to increase the cortisol in order for you to start functioning. But for example, if you don't eat, that can make your body start to release a little bit more cortisol. So make sure that you're trying to eat within the first 60 to 90 minutes of waking up. This doesn't have to be an elaborate meal. It can be just a couple of eggs with a toast. It can be just some Greek yogurt with berries and nuts. It can be just a whole grain toast with nut butter, but it is just something to help anchor your morning, prevent you from having cravings early on, and help you keep a stable energy level. Number two is make sure that you are hydrated before you start drinking your coffee. Again, cortisol is already elevated in the morning, and the cortisol actually can help, it can increase your blood pressure, and so does dehydration. So when you wake up, you are naturally dehydrated, so you want to prepare your body to have that caffeine. So the best thing that you can do is make sure that you have a glass of water as soon as you wake up. So hopefully we're talking about 16 to 20 ounces of water before you actually drink your coffee. So make sure that you prepare your body to have that caffeine. And the third one is to make sure that you're having magnesium rich foods at dinner. As mentioned, magnesium can help unwind your nervous system, and it helps to promote a good repair while you're sleeping. So make sure that you're adding, for example, pumpkin seeds on your salad, a square or two of dark chocolate. If you're craving something sweet, that can be a very good way to manage your cravings and give it a high magnesium boost. Or, for example, have some cooked spinach on the side. So it's just a matter of giving what your body needs in order for it to have a good night's sleep. These are the three things that I always recommend. They don't require any meal prep or any other work. So that's where I usually recommend for everyone to start on. Now, I want to be clear and upfront. Food is actually going to be the base when we are talking about handling stress. But for some people living under chronic stress, supplements can actually be very helpful. So here are my 5 top supplements that I usually recommend. The first one is ashwagandha, and this is the one of the most well-studied supplements or adaptogens available. Actually, studies have shown that it can actually reduce cortisol levels by 14 to 28% on some people. And the form matters. Make sure that you are looking for KSM66 extract at 300 to 600 milligrams daily. The other one is magnesium glycinate. We already covered how magnesium can be helpful, but the glycinate form is actually the one that I recommend for stress and sleep because it's highly bioavailable and it doesn't cause a digestive upset whenever you take it. The third one is an omega-3 supplement, especially if you're not having the 1 to 2 fatty fish per week. This is going to be anti-inflammatory and it's going to be cortisol regulating. So what we want is 1 to 2 grams per day of EPA. You can get it from fish oils or you can get it from algae based omega 3s. The other one are functional mushrooms. These category is constantly growing. We have, for example, lion mane, which can help support nerve growth factor production, which is involved in brain plasticity and resilience. We also have reishi, which is an adaptogenic mushroom. Again, it can help reduce how the stress affects your body. There are different kinds. It's still growing, but it can be a very good supplement to have. And then we have vitamin C, a high dose of vitamin C, thinking about 500 to 1000 milligrams, has been associated with lowering cortisol and blood pressure. So these are the supplements that I recommend. Now, I always say that make sure that you check with your healthcare provider before starting any new supplement, especially if you are under medication or you're managing a health condition, because any of these supplements might have an interaction with any of the medication that you are actually taking. Now, before we get into the action plan, I want to take a moment to talk about any other lifestyle modifications that can help you with stress. Nutrition is just part of it, but we also have other things that can help you. The first one is sleep. Make sure that you're sleeping 7 to 9 hours per day of high quality sleep. Here is where your brain repairs and recovers. So it's important to make sure that you're having a good quality sleep. Make sure that you're working on a bedtime routine to help you lower your cortisol levels as you go into deep, since here is where cortisol resets. Then we are talking about movement. It doesn't have to be intense movement, a 30-minute walk, a yoga session, a bike ride, anything that can help you get moving during the day. If you can do it early in the day to help you have that sunlight, that can help a lot. But if not, you can do it at night or at any moment where you are feeling a very high stress load. The other one is making sure that you have stress outlets. We're talking about 5-minute box breathing, having a journal with you. Some people like doing manual things, building things, gardening, or just simply doing puzzles, anything that can help ground yourself and can help you have that stress outlet for you. Even 5 minutes of doing that stress outlet can help you lower those cortisol levels. Make sure that we're limiting stimulants, especially at night. So, no caffeine after 2 p.m. Make sure that you are avoiding screens 1 to 2 hours before bedtime and that you have that wind down routine that is going to help trigger your body and tell it that it's time to start going into that relaxing mode that you are going into bed. Make sure that you're also having a strong social connection. So, genuine social connections can help release oxytocin, which is the hormone that directly buffers the cortisol. So, make sure that you're spending time with friends, building a community of people that are going through the same thing as you and that are going to support you. And finally, make sure that you're spending time in nature. Just 20 minutes of outdoor activities have shown that it can significantly reduce your cortisol levels, and natural light can also help regulate your circadian rhythm, which can help regulate how high or low your cortisol levels are. So you can go for a short walk in the morning or just 5 to 10 minutes of getting natural sunlight. Make sure that you are avoiding where it's at its peak to avoid any skin problems eventually. So, just as a recap and to bring everything together, here are 5 nutrition specific things that you can start doing immediately. One is making sure that you have breakfast within 90 minutes of waking up. 2, making sure that you add 1 magnesium-rich food today. 3, making sure that you have a fatty fish twice per week or taking an omega supplement. 4, using the stress resilient plate. And 5, making sure that you have a fermented food to help support your gut. Now, you are not meant to run on empty, and that's the message that I want to bring today. The fatigue, the anxiety, the cravings, the brain fog. So much this of is your body telling you that there is something wrong and that it needs the materials in order for it to be calm. Food is information, and every meal is either going to support your stress or work against it. And now you have the framework to make the choices that are actually going to make it feel better. Thanks everyone for showing up today. If you have any questions, just make sure that you write it in the comment sections below, or you can just send them a DM on the Peremis Instagram at Peremis Health. Remember that for any personalized nutrition guidance, please work with a registered dietitian or a qualified healthcare professional. And remember, the information shared today is educational and not intended as medical advice. See you!